Why don't I see? There we go. I had to do CO.
All right, we are go for launch.
Okay. There it is. Too many pieces of paper. Good evening and welcome. I'd like to call the Henrietta Town Board meeting for June 30th, 2021 to order. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Here.
Councilmember Stafford,
Here.
Councilmember Safranik,
Here.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Here.
Supervisor Schultz.
Here. We'll begin with a silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Becky, do you have any issue if I go completely out of order here?
You're chairing this meeting, so you can do whatever you want, and the rest of us will try to keep up.
First up, I have a public hearing regarding complete streets, bike lanes, and climate smart communities from Jack, Parker, and Vivian, fourth graders at Sherman Elementary. Coming up to the podium.
Do we need two mics? I don't know.
Well, yeah. Let's bring that other corded mic over. Do you want to sit at this table instead? Will that be easier? And you can speak right in, pull that mic close to you. Is that on? Craig? No, the other one. Check the other one too. All right, go ahead. And I'll note that there is also a presentation on the screen for those who would like to follow along. Okay, go ahead. Just introduce yourself and present away.
Hi, my name is Vivian Marion. I just finished fourth grade at Rush Henrietta in the Remote Learning Academy. I'm here today to make a proposal to fix the bike lanes and to share ideas about how to fix climate change.
Hi, my name is Jack Siebert, and I also go to Rush Henrietta. I am here today because I care about climate change and the effects of it on us.
We are very glad that the town is adding bicycle lanes. We feel that if we want to get more people to ride on them, we should improve them. These are the bicycle lanes that are on Jefferson Road that were mentioned in your letter, Mr. Schultz. Do these look safe to ride on?
We did a poll with our class and one other class to see if they felt safe riding on the Jefferson Road bike lane. The results showed that 85% of kids don't feel safe and would rather ride their bikes on a raised bike lane like the one on Union Street by Strong Museum.
We think that Henrietta could raise the bike lanes like the ones in this photo. It also might be nice if we had more sidewalks that are safer and maybe sidewalk crossings that are colored so that people who are driving can see them better. Some streets we would like to improve are Jefferson Road, Lehigh Valley Trail to MCC, Lehigh Station Road so we could bike to school, a mural at the intersection of East Henrietta Road and Calkins Road, a mural at the intersection of Erie Station Road and East River Road.
Also, electric cars put out less pollution than gasoline cars because they don't use fossil fuels. They can be a problem depending on where you get your electricity. If it comes from burning fossil fuels, it gets us nowhere.
We think the town should listen to the Sustainability Committee and do community renewable energy aggregation. Charging stations around the town could be put in using clean energy like solar panels, windmills, and water power.
We met with people from Climate Solutions Accelerator and Henrietta Green. They recommended that the town helps people get solar panels on their houses. Also, a suggestion is to put up solar parking canopies at the library or solar panels at the schools. Climate change doesn't stop on land. It also affects the water ecosystems.
Climate change is important because it will hurt humans by disrupting habitats like coral for fish.
This is important to me because water is getting warmer and ice is melting, and it could create bad storms, destroy food chains, and lead to huge population drops. We need to take action now.
Water absorbs carbon dioxide, and the more carbon dioxide the water absorbs, the more acidic the water will get, killing lots of fish. We eat fish, so with that and overfishing, we'll have a problem on our hands very quickly. You have a moral obligation, a mission, and a mandate to get out there and leave this little planet a little greener, a little cleaner, and a little more peaceful for generations yet unborn.
This year, we learned about Dr. Walter Cooper, a friend of John Lewis, whom this quote is from. He was anti-racist and was very involved with integrating Henrietta in 1958. He taught us to stand up for what we believe in. We hope you will keep standing up against environmental racism and climate change and listen to our suggestions. Thank you for our time, and special thanks to our friend Parker Fay for helping create the slide presentations. He is here with us on Zoom.
Parker unmuted. I see him up there. At least I think I see him up there.
That's him.
He is here. He is not unmuted. Parker, if you'd like to speak, oh, let me hit this button. That might help. There we go.
Hi, Parker.
Sorry.
So I absolutely agree with what you guys said, and I will say a couple things. So we did change our town codes, and we're actually still making additional improvements to finalize that to allow for large-scale solar arrays in town. We did that in cooperation with our farmland protection plan, so that they're basically allowed on working farms. They can cover no more than 25% of the acreage of the farm, up to a maximum of 25 acres. And it basically, they're not supposed to take away the best farmland from the farm. We had our first application. It's under construction. It's in the southwest quadrant of town. And so hopefully in the not too distant future, that will be producing power. And the town, basically town hall, if you will, intends to sign up for that community solar power and get so that our energy is coming from a green source. We don't have any windmills in town that I'm familiar with. I don't know that our topography is the best for that. But like I said, we've been looking at solar arrays because there are places where those work well. We have a number of businesses who have them on their roofs. Not only do they provide local power for those companies to reduce their electrical bills, but in places, especially like warehouses that are often not air conditioned, the solar arrays, because they're absorbing the sun's energy to convert to electricity, it meant that those warehouses are 5 to 10 degrees cooler for the people working inside of them. Like I said, a lot of benefits gained there. We have been working on additional sidewalks. We put in a brand new expanded sidewalk on Jefferson Road from John Street to Lowenthal. We put in new sidewalks on East Henrietta Road. In fact, in front of the old Good Shepherd church that the building the town now owns. And we did do some colored walk to separate colored portion to separate what is clearly the walk portion from it's right up against the curb, because they're just in a lot of one of the things you find in older neighborhoods, especially ones that were built pre-automobile. There is not a whole lot of setbacks from the road to the houses. We are currently have new multimodal path, which is basically both intended for sidewalk and bicyclists along East River Road, going from eventually from Farnham Drive, which is the southwest exit from RIT, all the way down to Lehigh Station. Some of that's been funded by state aid to municipality grant that we received with the support from State Assembly Member Harry Bronson and State Senator Patrick Gallivan. And some of that work we were able to extend it by getting some of the developers who are putting in office parks near there to extend the path even farther. We are also going after what's called a local waterfront revitalization program to get additional funding to do some interconnects. So like we want to do a nice intermodal path from that sidewalk over to the Lehigh Valley Trail, which runs up along the east side of the RIT, basically on the west side of John Street, the east side of the RIT campus. We also, at one point, there was what was called a transportation development district to do all the improvements around Highland Drive, Marketplace, not quite all the way over to Marketplace Drive, but around Marketplace Mall, that big intersection. Those improvements were all done and there was money left over. So we're going to use that leftover money to put in again, a nice wide sidewalk that could also be used for bicyclists, maybe not for the folks who, ride at 20 miles an hour or faster, but certainly for any kids riding their bikes in that area. And that will go from Jefferson Road pretty much down to the 390 overpass. So that'll be on the west side of Highland Drive and allow connectivity with the mall. So we've got a lot of these in the works. We've got additional ones. We want to close a number of the gaps, including some of the ones you spoke of. And also out to Tinker. There's a gap in the sidewalk in Tinker. All the sidewalks up and down Pinnacle Road and Calkins, and they all interconnect. And then there's a gap before you can get to Tinker Nature Park. So we're looking at adding those. For the ones you mentioned, however, that expressly mentioned, unfortunately, those are all state highways. Now, we did do a complete street program. And so, for instance, when you see the work that the county is currently doing on, the county is redoing Pinnacle Road and Winton Road. They are on the new portion of Winton Road. They're putting in sidewalks where there didn't used to be good sidewalks before. So in those cases, they are doing them. The state is a little tougher to work with. They have been doing some improvements in that area, but I agree, Jefferson has a long way to go. But unfortunately, the state's above us. We don't get to dictate to them, but we get to cajole and try to convince them otherwise. So one of the things that I do intend to do is take the clip of your presentation, especially the portion talking about those roads, and sending it to the director of Region 4, New York State Department of Transportation, Region 4. His name is Director Kevin Bush, and he's basically in charge of the areas around here. So we'll see if we can get them to make some of those improvements you've talked about. One of the last things I'll mention that we've been talking about too, you mentioned some raised sidewalks and crosswalks. We're looking to do that, and one of them specifically is right outside your I guess, would it be former school? Or do you still have one more grade left at Sherman?
We have
Oh, two
two
more?
grades in.
Two more? When they changed, I couldn't remember where. Oh, that's right. This is the fourth and sixth, yeah. My kids used to go to Sherman back when it was the lower elementary, when they still at the middle school instead of junior high. So anyway, I refer to them as tabletop crosswalks, and you can actually see them on RIT campus. They're actually raised up, they're flat, and then there's an incline coming into both of them. There's actually something like it if you go out here and go left and cross the railroad tracks. Those are actually built the same way. You go up, across, and back down. The nice thing about it is if you do that with colored concrete, it shows up as you're driving down the road so that they really stand out. And again, if somebody goes flying over that at unsafe speeds, they're probably going to damage their vehicles, which again is part of called traffic calming. It's meant to try to keep speeds down. So we're going to look to do those at where there's schools, and specifically we're trying hard to convince New York State to put a traffic light at the end of Authors where it intersects with
Green Clover?
no, well, yeah, Green Clover's the other side, but with Lehigh Station, because we think that would be much safer. So we're doing a lot of the things you asked. Unfortunately, some of them are outside our control, but we will certainly work to influence. Anybody else want to add?
Jack and Vivian, thank you so much for your presentation. It was very well done. And man, you guys have a future in politics and helping our community. Thank you very much.
And Parker, great job on the presentation. It added good punch to the presentation.
Yes, thank you to all three for your presentation.
Yeah, Jack, Vivian, and Parker. I have my son is in second grade, going into third grade. And I hope that when he's in fourth grade, that he is as well informed as you three are and able to advocate for all of the young people that are coming up behind you. You are leaders already at your young age by advocating for other kids and for safety. And I particularly like that you included the murals, the street murals. That was actually a picture from the neighborhood that I grew up in. And it's something that I would like to see here in Henrietta, because I do think that that's something that often helps drivers to slow down, catches their eye, and is a little bit surprising, but it also adds a lot of beauty to the neighborhood. So thank you.
Yes, Jack, Parker, and Vivian, amazing job. You young people just blow my mind. You are so well versed. You're so well educated. You look into things. Jack actually lives in my neighborhood. And so just so proud of you. Such a great job. Thank you. And Parker, awesome job. I wish I could do as good a job myself as you did on this presentation. So thank you to all of you for bringing it forward to us. And we're so proud to have you in our town.
And their whole class, so I had the pleasure of speaking via Zoom to their class. Their whole class is like this. It just, in fact, a couple of their classmates will be speaking to the library town board about the consideration of naming the Henrietta Public Library after Sojourner Truth.
Yes, and we should congratulate their teacher too, because obviously their teacher is doing a fabulous job.
And that's it, yeah. Name?
Yeah, a lot of the thanks goes to Mr. Wiegand for teaching us about Henrietta. And Mr. Schultz, I know you mentioned Sherman. I know Parker and Jack go to Sherman. I go to Vollmer.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. Okay.
Are you guys doing anything near Vollmer?
The sidewalk wise, we do have some stuff, but it's further out. Yeah, so again, that's where my son, he did 1 year there because it was during the actual transition. But yes, we are looking at doing some additional work there. Unfortunately, when we talked to the state about bringing there's a couple of big neighborhoods across West Henrietta Road from there, and they asked about a potential of a crosswalk there. Because they're not controlled intersections, the state said they will not put one in. Controlled meaning a traffic light. So, but we are looking to do better sidewalks. And I'll also note that we can't have, without that control across a state highway, we can't have a crossing guard there. So we'll keep lobbying them to see if we can get one of those, whether it's Telephone Road, or we could put one further up at Erie Station Road. We could potentially connect over to there. Now, you know, for the people who live in that neighborhood, it means they'd have to go walk north, go across, and then head back south again. But we could do one at Erie Station Road. But right now we would not be able to do a crosswalk at Telephone, which I know is a request from some students. And I will add that we are putting in a park at that corner. It's going to celebrate the historic nature of that neighborhood. It's called Chapman's Corner Park because there used to be a Chapman's Hotel there. The pavilion is going to be inside what used to be the Three Sisters Ice Cream. One of the things I said is when we have the launch for the park, we'll have to get an ice cream provider to actually provide ice cream there for the olden days. You know, so that will be along that path. There's a lot of neat stuff. And I'll mention Ann Stevens and Bill Shattuck, who are two residents who essentially bought that land, and they're doing all the improvements. They're going to sell us the parcel when it's all done for the price they paid, but they're going to donate all of the improvements they made, including fountains, well, fixing up the Three Sisters building. So it's going to be a lot of nice additions to that area. If we get sidewalk funding, so I've approached the state for some additional funding, we will look to increase the connectivity from Volmer and Berger to the surrounding neighborhoods. So, okay. Any other questions, comments?
Congratulations to all the parents too. Give yourselves a hand. Got great kids.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Um,
Go ahead, Jack.
well, I have one more question about the solar panels and a few other things. Well, I know that a lot of those parts for the solar panels and a bunch of machinery probably puts out, like if we are using a construction truck, so probably not, but and a lot of those parts came from places that make them, which run on electricity, which also come from burning more fossil fuels.
Converting the machines from electricity to what?
Well,
Yes.
the machines that build the parts for a lot of these, or the places they get them, usually use a lot of electricity, which normally comes from burning fossil fuels for a power plant. So it would also be putting out more pollution at the same time.
So if the question is, can we convert some of those to green energy? Like I said, the town plans to acquire all of its electricity from green energy sources, therefore reducing that carbon footprint.
Yeah, but probably the places that make them use electricity, which is also from burning fossil fuels. So we're probably gonna put out a little bit of fossil fuels while we make them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, I have speaking of amazing kids, although more of a young man now. I had the pleasure of being at a Eagle Scout ceremony for Josh Hager, who happens to be also in my son's troop. So This one was extra special for me because I've gotten to see, you know, a lot of the Eagle Scouts. I only get to see them at their Eagle Scout ceremony, whereas with the Hagers, I've gotten to see their kids through the troop. So I'm going to read the resolution, and then I would love to get pictures with Josh. So whereas Josh Hager has achieved the rank of Eagle Scout in Boy Scout Troop 134, and whereas to achieve that rank, Josh earned merit badges in 26 different disciplines, including small boat sailing, one of his favorite pastimes, earned at his favorite camp, Massawepie. And whereas during his time in Scouts, Josh held the position of scribe, patrol leader, senior patrol leader, and was a member of the Order of the Arrow. And whereas Josh is a senior at Rush Henrietta Senior High, I assume you've graduated now, congratulations, and will be pursuing computer science in college. And whereas for his Eagle project, Josh led a team to build 4 benches and paint a bridge and gazebo at the Henrietta Senior Center, logging over 150 hours of service between his own work and his team. Therefore, be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board joins the Rush Fire Department, sponsors of Troop 134, in recognizing the achievement and honor of Josh Hager in attaining the rank of Eagle Scout.
Second.
One of the things I usually forget in these type of resolutions, I always forget to actually call for the roll. So I'm going to do that now before I forget. But if anybody would like to add anything before I call the roll.
Congratulations, Josh, on both your attaining of the Eagle Scout rank and on your recent graduation. You have a bright future ahead of you. It's very impressive. Thank you.
Congratulations, Josh. That's just to get your Eagle Scout is just truly amazing, and you should be very, very proud of yourself.
Thank you. Just once again, just another amazing young person in our community. So thank you.
Lots of accomplishments. I believe I met you at your mom's house. Your mom's Judy? Congratulations, you and your parents. Great job.
And one of the things I'll note, for those who aren't aware of it, I've been to enough of this Eagle ceremonies that I'm familiar with this statistic. Only 4% of scouts make it all the way to Eagle Scout. So it
Amazing.
really is
Such an
an
accomplishment.
accomplishment, perseverance, and something to be really proud of. So, thank you. Did I actually call the roll?
I don't think so.
Call the roll. See, I told you. Please call.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Dad's got a good camera, so you don't get a picture.
That way.
Right behind Steve's back. I don't need my face like in the middle of it, so.
Steve. Oh, could we ask that you send that picture to the town board?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And again, congratulations and thank you for coming to the town board.
Thank you for staying around so long.
Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll take a short break. And then we will resume with the agenda, starting with the approval of the minutes. So let's say 5 minutes. We'll resume at 8:18. There's additional ones downstairs. Hello. You're gonna be up very shortly. No, because it was, what happens is, sometimes they get called back to the special use permit stuff, but in this one, the issue is, we can't pass that until we pass the law that enables us to grant the special use permit, so it has to be, it gets put into the main meeting, yeah, okay? No problem. Sorry about this running so long.
Got your check yesterday.
Oh, good. Yeah, I was,
Man, I said, that's crazy. That's good. Cool. So what, you pay for postage, that's it? That's nice. That's very nice. Yeah, but that's still convenient. Very convenient. And what do you call that? Who you with? I gotta have it in M&T. I bet my bank doesn't have it. I got a federal credit union. I don't know, maybe they do. Maybe they do. I'll have to ask. All those services are like hidden. They don't make any money from it. It's just service. Yeah. Yeah, M&T. Yeah, I bet they do too. What's going on, Bob? If I was, oh, good. Thank you.
Okay, ready to resume?
I'm ready if you're ready.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I make a motion to approve the minutes from the June 9th, 2020 Town Board meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I make a motion to approve the minutes from the June 24th, 2021 Town Board Special Meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. First up, we have a public hearing to consider updating the Town of Henrietta Comprehensive Plan. I will note that we're not doing a full overhaul of the comprehensive plan. We just completed that in 2019. What the update is that we are adding the summary statement from the supplemental GEIS to the comprehensive plan so that it can all be found in one location. So it's a pretty straightforward change, but by law, we have to have a public hearing. Is there anybody who wishes to speak with regards to that update? Hearing none, I'm going to call the public hearing to consider updating the Town of Henrietta Comprehensive Plan to close. Next up, we have a public hearing for the proposed local law to implement incentive zoning. So again, this is what we had done under the supplemental GEIS. We've had numerous discussions on this, but again, as part of the process for implementing new town codes, we have a public hearing. Is there any additional comment, anything anybody would like to just add with discussion to the implementation of the incentive zoning? Anything online? Hearing none, I am going to close the public hearing for the proposed local law to implement incentive zoning. Next up, we have a public hearing on the proposed local law to modify the town code at chapter 234 to limit the applicability of the refuse collection map when less than 4 licensed collectors, or when there are less than 4 licensed collectors. I'll open the discussion by noting that in years past, we had 6 or 7 licensed collectors, and often they were operating on different days of the week. And so some neighborhoods pretty much had refuse collection every single day of the week. And so they asked us to narrow that down. They came up with this concept of the collection refuse map, which basically says they try to get everybody together to narrow it to their collection in that neighborhood to one of 3 days, and they created the map. That worked well. More recently, an external company came in and bought up a lot of the local refuse collectors to where we now only have 3 licensed collectors in the town of Henrietta. One of them was going to update their collection schedule, changing from the map. We didn't feel it made any sense to update the map, since by definition, if there's 3 licensed collectors and they each only collect on a single day, then we've met the need of the map. I didn't want to get rid of the code, because if we ever get an additional licensed collector, we would have to reinstitute it. So what this proposed local law does is it makes it not necessary when there are 3 or fewer licensed collectors, dictates how the map will be displayed during that time with a large notice saying that it's not currently in use. And it does specify that the 3 or few licensed collectors have to collect the solid waste and recyclables on a single day in those neighborhoods. So that way, again, we make sure we have just 3 days of collection in a neighborhood. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments on regarding this.
Just a comment. Someday I'd like to see where the collectors collect the garbage in the same neighborhood on the same day, all 3 of them. But I know that's not going to happen tonight. So
Right.
this is,
I will note that there's been some frustration with that company that purchased all the local providers. To the point where people were asking again about the concept of do we, whether we do it through the town tax or whether we do it through a program where essentially we put out to bid each of the neighborhoods and really hold the collectors' feet to the fire. We'd have more ability to do that than we do today. I will probably be floating that back out to the populace this fall. Last time it came around with all those collectors, including a number of local collectors who, you know, people were very loyal to, they had really strong customer service. There was not an interest in making that change. Unfortunately, those strong local companies got bought out, and from the reports I've been receiving, the customer service of the company that did the purchasing is not as strong as the customer service of the local companies that they purchased. So
As someone who is is under one of those, that particular refuse collector, I can completely attest to that. There was probably like 3 or 4 weeks there when our refuse was not collected. It has been very frustrating.
So one of the things we are doing, if it hasn't already been done yet, we are contacting to let them know that it's not acceptable under their license to collect. We don't have as much teeth as I might otherwise like, but you know, hopefully it will get through to them that they need to resolve that issue. Any other questions, comments regarding this local law? Anything online? Hearing none, I call the public hearing for the proposed local law to modify the town code at chapter 234 to limit applicability of refuse collection map when less than 4 licensed collector. Closed. Finally, well, I shouldn't say finally, there could be the second page. It is finally. We have a proposed public hearing for a proposed local law to amend the Henrietta Town Code at chapter 295 to address off-site storage for car dealerships. A number of car dealers have been running out of space on their lots, and this has been exacerbated by the supply chain issues with regards to the pandemic, and specifically, you know, we're still seeing it now post-pandemic because those supply chains take a long time to recover. And so we've been approached by a number of car dealerships who want to expand, and there's not always space in and around them to essentially grow their normal lots, so they're looking for other locations. So we've talked about rather than treating everything as one-offs, that we would actually modify the code to add an allowed use in certain zones or zoning districts with a number of conditions on those. And so that's what we'll be voting on today with regards to that local law. So a couple things I'll note about that. As part of that, the requirement is that they are not, it's new cars only, that they there is no sales activity or customer activity at that location, that there is sufficient access for off-street unloading so that the car carriers are not unloading in the street or backing into or backing out of the driveways. And that the operation of that does not negatively affect other businesses around there. In addition, as one of the conditions of the special use permit, we'll be looking at the visual impact from the street on that. So in a lot of cases, the parking lot is behind a business, which is preferred because as people know, we already have a lot of dealerships in Henrietta along West Henrietta Road. And there was a reticence to see that grow even further. But again, there's a need by the dealerships. And so we're basically looking to see how we can solve that without adversely impacting the town. Mike?
They will still have to come in front of us. If this is approved, they will still have to come in front of us. for a
Yes, it's
special
only
use
an
permit.
allowed use with a special use permit, and
Okay.
it includes the additional conditions upon which we can apply for the special use permit. So it gives us some additional ability to deny if, for instance, so we'll use the one for Marketplace Mall. We did that one very temporarily because of the construction going on, but the big parking lot at Marketplace Mall, we could deny under this law because it's out in the open. It's not screened from major streets. So that doesn't mean we have to deny it. It just means we can, because that's one of the considerations when reviewing the special use permit. But yes, they can't go in without a special use permit.
That's one.
And the other thing we did based off of conversations at the last meeting, we made it clear that they can be issued on it with a expiration date and have to be renewed. Because there was some reticence, some special use permits, once you grant them, they're there with the property forever. And that was not a desire with some of this stuff, especially since in many cases, we're hoping that this need will curtail when the supply chain issues have been resolved.
They kept mentioning supply chain issues and pandemic. Could there also be economic issues where they get a better deal if they buy 6 months worth of cars versus 1 month's worth of cars?
There could be.
Right, okay.
I wouldn't know that
Yeah,
business, but.
yep, thank you.
But I do know from talking to a number of people in the industry that supply chain issues have been a real problem. And then one of the things you find, if you can get a load of cars, you take the whole load because you don't know when you're going to get your next one.
And I know there's
Not quite as bad as toilet paper a year ago, but
I know there's certain manufacturers that are just having a hard time with the chip too,
Right.
that
that's
cars
what a
are
lot of the
just not
supply chain
available.
is. Yeah.
Right.
Or motors.
Right.
We had that problem with our truck. The motor was tough to get.
Okay.
So, Rob, anything?
No, sir.
Lisa, or Millie? Anything online? I know we have at least one representative from Subaru here. I don't know if you'd like to add anything or if what we've said is sufficient. Okay. Then hearing no further comment, I'm going to call the public hearing for the proposed local law to amend the Henrietta Town Code at Chapter 295 to address off-site storage for car dealerships closed. That concludes our public hearings as well as the public presentations we had earlier. Guys gonna switch? Can I get my second resolution? I remembered this time.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution 15-177, 2021 to authorize bills payable for June 11th, 2021 through today, June 30th, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Zafranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have Resolution 15-178, 2021, to adopt local law number 6 of 2021 to amend the Henrietta Town Code at Chapter 295 to address off-site storage for car dealerships and to revise permitted and prohibited uses in commercial B1 districts.
Seconded.
So I'll just mention on that last one, the way the town code used to be written under chapter 295 is the only place that we would allow car dealerships is on a stretch of West Henrietta Road from Lehigh Station Road to Jefferson Road. That's not changing. The thing is, the only way it allowed it was in the not permitted section. So the prohibited portion, which made no sense to me. So we've rewritten it. That also created some problems in terms of, because some of the, like the industrial district talks about allowing any use in a commercial district allowed in a commercial district. Well, arguably car dealerships were allowed there, but the industrial district had no such prohibitions, that it only be on the stretch of that stretch of West Henrietta Road. So we rewritten it in the commercial B1 district. It's only allowed, they're only allowed in that stretch. In the prohibited, it says they're not allowed anywhere except for as expressly spoken about there. We've already in previous go-rounds made it clear that they are prohibited uses in other areas, but we follow up with that in some additional in the commercial districts. And then, like I said, we add then as an allowed use in, I think we did it in commercial and industrial. Do you remember, Don? I could pull up the local law. But that we have the allowed use specifically for the allowed use specifically for this offsite storage. And so let me pull that one up if I can find it. Our folder is really full today. Which districts did we allow the offsite storage? I know it's commercial B1. Did we do any others? I seem to think we did it in 2 places. I just don't remember what the other one was. I seem to think it was B1 in industrial, but I'm not positive on that.
So it's B1. And then let me look what the other one is. In industrial.
Okay. We decided because B2 is healthcare as well as some of the stuff along East Henrietta Road where they're the old converted houses, that it didn't make sense as a potential location. So we just kept it to B1 in industrial.
In this resolution, should we have anything in there about up to 1 year for the special use permit?
No.
Okay.
That's when you do the special use permit. So basically what it says in the special use permit, additional factors to be assessed upon considering the special use permit include minimizing the visual impact of the storage lot from any public street, minimizing the visual impact of any surrounding properties, especially residential properties, minimizing the impact on the operation of any surrounding properties, whether the parking lot will comprise reuse of an existing parking lot, and if not, the visual and environmental impacts expected as a result of paving required, and sufficient ingress, egress, and circulation for safe loading and unloading of vehicles. So those are all conditions that we will be reviewing when we look at the special use permit 2021-044 those are the factors we should be considering in addition to the normal special use permit.
And
factors.
it also does specifically say in there that the special permit may be issued for a limited duration and may
Right.
be renewed thereafter. I did just notice a typo when we added the additional language after our last meeting. It only went into one of the two sections.
Okay.
So I think it's okay I can fix it right now on the fly, and I think it's okay
Sure.
to move it with that fix.
So it didn't make it, was it 820?
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
unfortunately.
Okay. So,
So
yeah, so that 820 matches B10?
I just fixed it now.
Okay, great. So basically, as I mentioned, it goes into two sections. One's in the industrial, one's in the commercial B1. We had added the additional language to the one. Don just made sure it's mirrored to the other. So yeah, so Mike, like I said, when we review that, that's the kind of stuff we're gonna make our decision upon. But it does allow it to be a limited duration. It does. So the thing about the paving of the parking lot, because especially since this is in theory a non-permanent solution, we prefer that new green area not get paved, that you use existing parking lots are reused instead of creating new ones. The exception would be if someone is planning to put something there a year or two down the road and they pave the parking lot now ahead of time to do this use and then make use of that parking lot a year or two down the road for the other use. That's something that, again, that's why it's a condition, not a requirement. It's something that we look at. Any other questions on that? Anything from the public, either in-house or online? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution number 15-179, 2021 to approve special use permit number 2021-044 Daytona Partners 1 LLC for Van Bortle offsite vehicle storage.
Second.
So this is a continuation of the special use permit hearing we'd had previously. It's not technically the hearing. We're now doing the resolution. If you remember, we tabled it because we wanted some additional information. If you look in your board packet, you'll see the letter from Subaru answering the questions we had asked. The normal number of vehicles expected is 120 with a proposed maximum of 292. And they provided a map that shows the proposed area where the parking would occur, as well as the path of that both provides a fire lane as well as a path there that would be where they would load and unload vehicles. And we have a representative from Van Bortle here. Please introduce yourself. And
My name is Ruth Perrin, representing Van Bortle Subaru of Rochester on West Henrietta Road.
questions.
Hi, Ruth.
Hello,
Glad you're here.
thank you.
Just my own edification between Daytona Partners and Van Bortle. One of the questions I had was about theft. A lot of vehicles are being stolen, their catalytic converters and stuff like that. And where these cars are being stored, there were no cameras. Is there any plans of doing anything for these vehicles?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, thank you.
In this resolution, are we gonna we don't have a time frame on this? Is this? going
If
to
you'll
be
notice, it has,
The one I have in front of me doesn't have for 1 year.
yes, our plan is that we will recommend the conditions. I just have to
I
find
didn't
that.
see that in the conditions. It's
Let-
maybe I'm,
No, my point is now we need to talk about what we want to add to the conditions.
okay, that would be one of my conditions. I also, I'm gonna ask the same question I asked earlier. You know, we heard a lot about COVID and the supply chain. And I know there's one manufacturer out there that's having a real hard time with their supply chain because of they can't get one part. I don't know if that's the same thing for Subaru, but my question, you know, like I said, we've heard a lot about the supply chain and COVID. Is there incentive for car dealerships to buy 6 months worth of cars versus 1 month's worth of cars?
Not for the manufacturer that we're representing, no.
Okay, so there's not, okay.
Because
One
they're,
of the other things I'll tell you from and it's not necessarily just in time manufacturing standpoint, but when they've got that inventory, their capital is tied up in
Yep,
that inventory.
yeah.
So that was, okay.
So the gentleman standing here, who is he?
Go ahead. Please say in the mic so that the clerks can hear you.
Dan McDonald, I'm the attorney for Daytona Partners One, who is the owner of the property as well as the applicant for the special use permit.
And you can tip the mic up. The fourth graders had it down a little lower.
So I'm not that tall.
So have the cars that are currently on that lot, have they been removed yet? I haven't been over there this week. So
No, there are cars on the lot, approximately how many?
Probably 20.
Oh,
20 to 25.
It's about 20, 25
I
on
didn't
the
know
lot.
we were asked to remove.
No,
them.
I was just curious because if, when we approve this, it's for new cars for that car, whatever car
Right.
dealership it is.
So again, if you remember, basically what happened is people were doing it, didn't realize
Right.
that it was, when code enforcement came across it, they basically said, look, you guys are gonna need to come in for a special use permit, so.
So that was more for Dakota, that there's several, I thought there was more than 20, but several used cars on that lot. So,
Yeah, I'm at, you know, how many cars and whether they're new, whether all of them are new?
I do not know the current status. It
Okay.
changes on a day-to-day
Right.
basis.
But yeah, so
And I
once,
didn't know it was used either. There was no, I didn't know about that. So we can
Okay.
change that immediately.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
yep.
I
Yeah,
guess
I-
for- Go ahead.
Go ahead, Rob.
I guess for the attorney, your name again, Don?
Dan McDonald.
Dan, sorry about that. There was an agreement that one of the vendors there said they had some parking up in the front corner before you get to the back lot for the, is that still gonna be are they still gonna have that parking or is that gonna be taken over by Van Border?
They will still maintain that parking. That's the United.
Yeah, okay.
That's the tenant that converts vans
right.
for handicap use. So they have a set area that they can park in.
Okay,
New Way Auto Parts has another section of the lot that they park in. And this will not have any effect. The storage of the vehicles to the east portion of the property and the north portion of the property will not have any effect on either of those tenants.
in your opinion, can you get 200 cars back there?
I've been over there. I would think so, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a pretty big, it's pretty good, big existing parking lot.
Rob, if you look at the map, you can see approximately how many cars are under those shaded areas. I wouldn't want to count them, but it does look like a lot.
No further questions from mine.
Thank you.
I think one of the concerns expressed before was the unloading of the vehicles. I see that you have an unloading lane here. Is it the plan to try to pull a vehicle in there the truck in there to unload the vehicles? Or are you going to unload them at your store location and drive them over?
Probably a combination of both. Sometimes the tractor trailers unload over at our dealership, but we keep an open lane here so that they pull all the way up to that, the end of that. I think there's a wall there. And they unload, back up, and then pull back out. So this parking lot's pretty much like a one-way because it's so narrow to get out on the north exit. So they never have to back out onto West Henrietta Road.
Great.
Okay.
But there is a combination. Some tractor trailers unload at our lot at the dealership and some here.
But there's enough space for them to find a way to turn around and pull
Well,
out.
Well, the beauty of this is this design, they do not have to turn around. They
Mhm.
just have to back up straight. If you see that,
Yep.
that straight line,
Yep.
and then they have to turn around and exit out.
The
Okay.
reason that lane's over there separate is so they can maintain the fire lane
Correct.
while
Well,
their
unloading.
cars parked
Unloading,
there.
correct.
Makes sense.
So they would come in from the south entrance. They just don't have that drawn, but this was just to mark where the fire lane is.
Yep.
They'd come in through the southern, pull into there and unload. Any other questions?
So if there's time restriction.
So Mike, go ahead.
The special use permit is good for 1 year from the date it's issued.
He would like to add the,
Special use.
I don't know if it
permit.
would be a condition or the where it would go down, but he wants to basically make it, I don't know whether it would be a further resolved or a condition, but that this permit is good for 1 year. I just want to know what's the best way to make that.
So if they want to extend that for a second, they're going to have to come through the whole process again.
Just come in for a special. use
They'd come in for a special use permit, yep.
We can. So one way we could do it is we can make it a condition that it should only be valid until a certain date. Then they could come back in and amend just that condition. So we wouldn't have to go through the entire process again if you want to do it that way. If we put in like a date of June 30th of 2022 in there, they could come in and say, hey, we'd like to change this. We'd like to move to amend this condition to such and such other date, further date.
Yeah, but what would that, if there were some issues that we were having in the meantime, could they just come in and say we want to amend it, or do they have to come in front of us again and
They
say,
have to come in front of us, is his point.
and
He's just saying, we don't have to start over with a new special use permit. If you've got an issue, then you can either not approve it or you can make additional modifications. He's just saying that they would just have to come in and say, we'd like to come in and extend the termination date by, 6 months, whatever.
Right.
To be honest, I wasn't clear if you meant go right into the office to do that or come in front of the board. What did you?
Come in
mean?
front of the board.
Only the
Okay.
town board can modify a special use permit.
All right, great.
yeah, I just, my concern is we're obviously going to have some more of these. And I think,
Mhm.
and, if there's issues, I don't want to just go out there and give everybody a blanket special use permit forever.
Right,
So,
that's
Yep.
why we're,
Yep.
right. I
Yeah,
Yeah,
understand.
that's why we changed the law. So it was clear we could do this.
So what would it?
So,
This special use permit shall only be, or
this,
shall only allow,
yeah, so this special, subject to the following conditions that this special use permit shall expire and terminate on June 30th, 2022. Would be the fifth condition.
Are we going to put something in there, but it can be extended by board approval?
We can add that in there specifically. I mean, to me, that it's
by
implicit.
definition, it's implicit. You can update any special use permit by coming back with. board
I'm just
approval.
thinking rather than go through the whole thing again, if they've complied with everything and everything's good, do you go through the whole process again?
I think you can do it. You can have that in there or not, either way. It's, if you put it in there, in a sense, it kind of invites them to do it. If you don't put it in there, I don't know if I'm not sure if that makes it any less clear, because it does say in our law that it can be limited but also extended. Go look at that language real quick. It says, our law says the special permit may be issued for a limited duration and may be renewed upon application therefore under these same regulations.
So do we want to just leave it at that, or do we want to add and may be extended by the town board in the future? Which do you prefer?
I like that
Without
it
that
may
clause.
be extended because I think it lets them know that, if you play good, if you do what you're supposed to do, we're
Right.
willing to extend it, but if you don't, we're not.
Okay,
That's
are
just
you
my
good with that,
opinion.
Mike? Because
With
you're gonna
that-
be the one putting forth the amendment.
Yeah, would that prevent us from ever changing any of the rules? We might not think of everything right now that could possibly go wrong. Could we, in a year from now, add anything to? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, if they come back before us, my opinion would be that we're under the same regulations as if we were issuing it anew. Except that common law basically says that if someone comes before you to renew it and nothing's changed and you deny it, that's likely to be arbitrary and capricious. And if you think about it, that makes sense. If the thing that has changed is the way they're doing their operation, or they're not, if they violated any conditions, of course, that presumably that can just be pulled without, that obviously impacts the underlying special use permit, not even getting to the extension issue.
Let me use an example. Let's say there's something we didn't think of, that the fire lane should be painted green. I'm just making something up. And that we decided we could basically add that as a clause to say, and, there was 6, the fire lane shall be painted green.
I would say that would be a reasonable approach for the town, since we'd be opening up the special permit again and modifying it.
Right.
I just want to make
Right.
sure that's.
But to Don's point, if they behaved, followed all the procedures, all the stuff we have put forth, we're good citizens, then denying it, again, unless, if we're basically saying they can be extended in the future, denying it,
I just want to make sure it can be
Yeah.
modified. if
Absolutely can be
needed.
modified, yeah, if
That's
needed,
the
yeah.
best
Right.
way to put it. Thank you.
Yeah, if we
Okay.
discover new facts and circumstances that would merit some new conditions or some varying of the current conditions, that's sufficient to change it, or even perhaps to deny renewal, depending on
Right.
what those conditions are.
Okay,
Gonna,
do you want to make the motion, or do you want me to? This is your baby. Can you read that?
I make a motion to add number 5, this special use permit shall expire and terminate on June 30th, 2022, and may be extended by the town board in the future.
Second.
Any further discussion on that extension? Okay, not extension, excuse me, on the amendment. Please call the roll on the amendment. We are voting on whether to add this amendment to the current resolution.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
All right. Okay, so now we're discussing and we'll be voting on the resolution as amended. Any further comment?
I have one. Ruth and Dan, are you guys gonna be good students and not get in any trouble?
Yes.
You're gonna be as good as the students that we had here in our
Yeah.
board meeting today?
Just tell us the guidelines. what to do.
We're going to comply with the conditions.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I don't have any other questions, Supervisor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing no further comments, please call the roll on the amended resolution.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I would just like to talk to you at some point, find out who I should talk to. The town implemented something called a tree bank. And what that was specifically for is, when we do a planning site, we typically require a certain number of trees per acre, but some developments can't fit all the trees on there. And Subaru was a perfect example of that. Some of that's because of their own desires. You don't want trees at the front of car sales lot, right?
Right.
But some of it was also because Subaru was bringing the sewer main back to the properties behind it. And so obviously you can't put trees over those sewers. Since Subaru got its approval, one of the things that we put in place was this tree bank, which if instead of waiving the requirement for those trees, if they can't fit them all in the lot, that they would either plant trees or we came up with it, what it costs to put in the standard tree in the park, that they would put it into this tree bank instead. And the reason is because we lost so many trees in our town parks to the emerald ash borers. Knowing what I know of Kitty Van Bortle, I would love to approach them about whether they would be willing. It'd be on a completely voluntary basis because you already had your approval. But just, you know, something to think about in terms of if there'd be an interest in participating in that tree bank.
I would think so.
I just, you know, like I said, completely voluntary. You guys already have your approval. I didn't want to even mention it till we were all done with this. But you know, like I said, it's just something to, if you could bring that to her, and she's welcome to reach out to me or whoever I could talk to
I'll
about
reach
that.
out to you and get all the details.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Yep.
Have a good
Good
night.
night.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution 15-180, 2021 to update the Town of Henrietta Comprehensive Plan.
Second. So as discussed at the public hearing, this is to put the seeker finding statement and attach it to the comprehensive plan update that we did in 2019. Any further questions or comments or discussion?
Just great job by the board, our attorney, and also what?
Yep.
Great job.
Hearing no further comments, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 15-181, 2021 to adopt local law number 7 of 2021 to implement incentive zoning in the town of Henrietta.
Second.
So we've had a lot of discussion over the last handful of meetings on this. I think this, again, was the result of a lot of hard work, both by the town board when we were doing the comprehensive plan update. If you recall, the two things that we hadn't fully nailed down and they were sensitive enough that we didn't want to rush them through were incentive zoning and the updates to the solar codes. Did a lot of work this past, well, almost 2 years now because there was some delays due to COVID to finish out the incentive zoning. I think there'll be a lot of benefit to the town. You know, especially when you look at things like the drag along infrastructure, preservation of historic properties, things like that. So again, thanks to, I know, town attorney Don Young and EDR consultant Walt Kalina put in a lot of work on this, working with the town board, the advisory committee from 2 years ago, and you know, all the input from the departments within the town to get this put in place and nailed down. So again, thank you for all your hard work, and I'm very happy with the result. Hopefully I've got at least 2 other board members who are as well.
Yes, I am. Great job.
Any further comments, discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Fellow board members, I have resolution 15-182, 2021 to call a public hearing for proposed local law to amend the Henrietta Town Code at chapter 273 to limit parking in cul-de-sacs.
Second.
So as you recall, we had a previous public hearing, got a lot of great feedback from the residents. Our plan is to fold all those changes back in and put forth a new local law. That's going to be my to-do list for the next roughly week. At which point then it'll be posted. We will have to we are going to send notices out to the affected streets. The gist of it is that most of the people were fine with no overnight parking, which would solve the problems where they had a number of people who essentially extended their driveways into the cul-de-sac. Would help with when the buses arrive early in the morning, but wouldn't limit them when they have guests over, because in a lot of the cul-de-sacs, depending on the shape of the cul-de-sacs, the driveways are not large. And so the other thing, our highway superintendent, Tim Lessing, came up with a great idea, because there was a number of residents who expressed concern that when the cars are parked around the outside of the circle, if a kid, for instance, their ball goes into the street and they go to pursue the ball, they're suddenly stepping out into traffic from between two parked cars. And so our superintendent of highways suggested that we essentially put a shoulder on the inside of these circles that have the center medians, and that we move the parking to the inside of the circle instead of the outside. That leaves the outside with a wide open view for children playing, as well as it makes it easier for buses and other larger vehicles to navigate, because it's a larger turning radius. So I thought that was a great solution. So we're going to work that in as well. So again, that we'll have that updated law available for public discussion at the next meeting. Any questions, comments?
Comments? I think one of the other comments that was made, I don't know if it's by Tim Lessing, but you guys were thinking about moving the mailboxes to a better spots too in some of those cul-de-sacs, right?
We are, that's just not relative to
Right.
the law, but one of the things I've been struggling with is getting the contact information for the postmaster for the Jefferson Road. I think I'm just gonna have to go over there in person.
I can get.
Gotcha.
You can get it, Mike?
I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
if you can get it, that would be awesome, because I've dug through every website I can find and it's not there.
Okay.
That's just astounding to me. So yeah, that would be great. My phone just buzzed. Maybe somebody already had it. Becky has it. I should have known. I should have asked Becky. Becky knows
She's too
everything.
quick for you,
Becky knows
Stafford.
everything.
No, I'm sorry, I can.
Yeah, I was just so frustrated with their websites and how little contact information there is there. Okay, any other questions on that?
No, sir.
Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 15-183, 2021, to call for a public hearing for a proposed local law to update the ethics code.
Seconded.
So I would like to have a little bit of discussion tonight, because there were a couple, I'll call them decision points. We have the recommendation from the ethics board, but there's a couple that I wanted the town board to weigh in on, mostly about board composition. So a lot of debate took place as to whether it should be 5, 6, or 7 person board. The overwhelming consensus from the ethics board is that it should be 5. It was not unanimous, but the vast majority. You know, there was one of the fears expressed with only having a 5-member board was a potential impact on the diversity of the board. You know, it's been pointed out that this board is 5 people. And I'll point out that right now, this board is quite diverse. One of the things that, when that came forth, one of the proposals we put, so per the current code, and we're not changing this for the new code, one of the members on the board is from the town or from the town employee staff or one of the, I think it has to be a director in the town, if I remember correctly. Officer or right, or board member. So, and then and so then that's essentially 4, I'll call them appointed positions. Granted, they're all appointed, but my point is, or at large, whatever you want to call them. And so the thought is if we go with 5, that we would do those 4 positions, they would be 4-year staggered terms. So that way each year, there's only a single person appointed to the board, barring resignation or, for some other reason, somebody not completing their term of office. But that way there's not a rapid turnover, more continuity. And also, if someone comes in and a different administration comes in, they can't suddenly stock the board with folks who are sympathetic to their cause. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but so that was the thinking behind that. That's what the current proposal is. I didn't know if people feel that there should be a different number. Like I said, the numbers, the ones we looked at were 5, 6, and 7. And there were 2 forms to the 6, 6 people, 6 full members. Currently, it's been operating with 5 people and an alternate. The alternate essentially only gets to vote if one of the other people doesn't show up, I guess. Although I'm not even sure the current code codifies that. That's just how they've been operating, kind of more standard operating procedure. I believe the proposal from the recommendation from the ethics board was just 5 members, no alternates. That I see the members of the ethics board nodding their heads. So I would tend to agree with that. I will say it was often awkward for that alternate because they basically could talk, but technically not vote. Don had expressed an interest in it being an odd number to avoid issues with regards to majority. Because if you have a 6-member board, then you still need 4 votes. It'd be no different than if I'd still need the same number of positive votes as if it was a 7-member board. With 5, I would need 3 positive votes in order to pass. So that's one. And then the other thing that I will bring attention to was there was some discussion as to whether a censure from the ethics board should just be a majority or some form of supermajority. There was, right now, there's nothing else in the town that has a supermajority with one exception. And that's actually from state law, which basically says if somebody's zoning board of appeals application gets turned down and they want to essentially appeal to have it overturned, for it to be overturned, it has to be unanimous. But again, that's under state law, not under town local law. There's nothing else with the supermajority in the local law. But again, there was some question of if I've got if the ethics board is issuing a censure, do we want to do something to make sure there's greater consensus than just a majority? So those were the 2 major points that I wanted to bring to people's attention to see if we wanted to change anything from the recommendations. I don't know, Bob or Linda, if you can think of any other. I think most of the other stuff is already addressed, concerns that the town board had raised previously. So I open the floor to my fellow board members to see what you guys think on the board composition and the supermajority question. And Don, that includes you if you want to weigh in, because I know you had some opinions on it as well.
I'll start with the 5. I agree with the 5-member board.
I'm for a 5-member board too. I think I've seen and been on some 7-member boards, and it does get unwieldy once you start to get a little larger.
The 5 board includes 4 And then the one town person, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I'm fine with the 5 people.
And do you guys like the idea of the 4-year staggered terms? So that's
Yes.
one person,
Yes, I think that's a great idea because you've always got somebody on the board with knowledge. You're not starting new.
right? Rob?
I'm fine with that too. I guess my one question would be for Bob. If everything passes the way we have it set up, will you remain on the board or will you be stepping down?
Excellent question. Actually, in accordance with judicial ethics, a town justice can only serve on an ethics board, pardon me, that is advisory only, cannot serve on a board that's adjudicatory. I believe that for 2 different reasons, if this board changes to the form that's been proposed, I would no longer be able to serve on the board because of an appearance of impropriety for 2 reasons. One, because it will be quasi adjudicatory. I mean, issues would still come to the town board for final resolution rather than by the ethics board. For example, the issue of censure would be a recommendation to the town board. It wouldn't be made strictly by the ethics board itself, but it would be quasi adjudicatory. But the other reason I think is because some issues could ultimately get referred to town court, and that would create an appearance of impropriety, being in a position of recommending something to the board that could end up before me in court. So I will be stepping down if this gets enacted, which I hope that it will, not because I want to step down, but because I think this is really an important step for the town.
Thanks.
Thank you. On the issue of the supermajority, I think that a simple majority is just fine. And I'm in favor of a simple majority.
Okay.
I know it's a tough call.
Not real sure on that yet.
I can make arguments both ways, and we don't have to. Again, you can, if on the 21st, you've changed your mind between now and then, we can make a modification. The question then just gets into, is that considered substantive enough that we would have to re-advertise and start the process over? That's why I just want to have our, I'll call it our best guess going forward now, so that if we all agree and stay in our current position, and again, there may be somebody speaking at the public hearing that could change our minds, but the point being, if we don't, then it allows us to enact it then. Otherwise, we would have to, again, re-advertise and hold it the following meeting. So you do still have an ability to change your mind. Because I don't disagree. That's a tough call. I can argue, I could easily debate both sides of the argument, and I probably have.
Right.
Anyone who knows me knows I love to debate.
You're here.
Bob, you're showing phenomenal restraint. Any other comments?
Did the ethics board themselves have any suggestion on the vote? As
Simple
far as
majority
simple
versus-
majority versus?
Yeah, so again, the consensus, overwhelming consensus was simple majority, but it was not unanimous,
Yeah, okay.
I believe, right? Yeah, I thought there was one. There was one that they may have not been objectionable. I don't know. Go ahead. Not 100% certain.
On the issue of the supermajority, ultimately, it was unanimously agreed to by the ethics board, although one member, I think, subsequently kind of changed that person's mind and has sort of been arguing the other way, but didn't oppose in the ethics board itself when we made the decision to make it a simple majority.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
So it's one of those that they were.
It was vigorously debated
It was
and discussed.
vigorously debated, and
over
they
many
still
nights,
are
so.
talking about the advantage of the supermajority, but they were okay with the, well, I don't know, so they basically went along with the consensus and made it unanimous on that one.
Right.
Anybody online? Any other comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. So again, hopefully, we'll see what happens at the next meeting. If it goes through, then we'll be able to put it in act. And again, thank you for all the work on this. You know, especially Bob, I know you've put in a Herculean effort. Never seen someone work so hard to get themselves off the board. Just kidding.
Smart move.
Thank you.
I am with you. I think it's going to be a significant improvement over what we have today.
Are we switching?
Ready, yep.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution number 15-184, 2021, to call for a public hearing for proposed local law to update the town code at chapter 227 to restrict smoking in town-owned facilities and property.
Second.
So, you know, one of the things we noted, there was a resolution that essentially said this, but it didn't make it into town code. And so we'd rather the town code expressly, because one of the things you can't, if somebody's smoking on your property and they repeatedly and refuse to stop, you can't, like the sheriff can't come by and say, you got to stop that because it's not against town code, right?
Yeah, I mean, essentially we could put up, and I think we did put up, did we put up signs
We
around?
put signs at the playgrounds.
But then putting,
And interestingly enough, that we didn't actually need to, because if you, having read the recently the clean in, there's a second one that follows on, essentially covers outdoor, but it expressly in New York State, smoking is forbidden at playgrounds.
right.
Yeah.
But it's still good to put the signage up.
Mhm.
So, but this one just, again, it's a small change, but it makes it crystal clear, no smoking there. Any other questions, comment on that?
I know we were sent one and then I found it, there was one for the park and then I sent one to,
Yep,
so, okay.
yeah, I saw, and the second one was, yeah, one was park playgrounds, the other one was, in some of that language, it's interesting because some of that language is actually in the code about the stuff about that employees are not permitted.
In vehicles.
Right, but for whatever reason, in the code, it basically said only in buildings and facilities. It didn't mention the properties, so. Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution 15-185, 2021. To issue a notice to perform work to correct encroachment on town parkland by owners of 4 properties on Sigley Park.
Second. So these 4 properties were notified previously. It was actually a group of 6. 2 of them have been resolved. These 4 have not. We basically want to send the official notice saying you need to fix this. If they don't, then per that section of town code, they would come in for a public hearing and we would then decide what to do about it. One of those decisions could be that we give them a date. If they haven't corrected it by that date, we go in and remove their property from the town land. And then we would repair any damages caused to the town land, and that bill would then be sent to the homeowner. And if they don't pay it, it would then be applied to their tax levies. So, you know, some of these are, one of them is very significant. The other ones, a lot of it times is they put their shed in the wrong place. It's possible some of them were influenced by their neighbor. When you look at their shed, lines up with their neighbor's shed. Hopefully they'll be able to just correct that, move the shed forward towards their house and problem solved. One of them, again, is going to take significant work. There's sheds, pergolas, planters, some tarp creation, all kinds of stuff.
It looks like
all on the town land.
it's trampoline, I think, too, on it.
Trampoline, yeah.
I think we had also, it looked from the pictures that somebody maybe had planted like trees.
Yeah, so that gets into the question whether I don't necessarily consider, so they shouldn't be doing that, but I don't necessarily consider that those trees be harmed. You know, one of the things I've also said, there's a number of people who mow, there's a tall grass and tree area between some of these backyards and the paths on the park. Some people have mowed a path from their yard to connect to that. I have no issue with that as long as they're not damaging the park. But they obviously cannot put their own personal property there. They also can't, if somebody's walking on that trail, they can't kick them off because it's not their property, it's public property. But again, I don't have an issue if they plant that or mow it. And if people want to plant trees, they can always approach the town. And if we agree to it, they can plant them there. So the ones that were planted there were fine. Now, the thing I will also note, if they decide to plant, for instance, apple trees, those apples are public property. So, but anyway, like I said, this particular thing is about the issue with trespassing.
Yeah, basically it boils down to trespass onto the parkland. And I think that sort of the boots on the ground resolution of this isn't a science. And so I think it's important for, if it's going to be Craig, that we put his contact information out there and they go out there and decide, okay, this is exactly what you need to do. You need to get this off up to this area on this line here. And, if there needs to be dirt put down or seed or anything like that, just make it clear. So that's why we sort of have his name and number in the notice. I think the plan is to send them a little graphic that says, here's the area that we're worried about. And hopefully they'll sort of get the point and we won't have to go in there and do it ourselves.
Right.
So is,
Go ahead, Rob.
so is there any statute of limitations from what they've been doing on this land?
Not necessarily. No, not really. It's
Okay.
it's currently illegal the way that it is. They're in violation as it stands now.
So if I understand this correctly, if these 4 homes adhere, move all their stuff, even though there's some damage to the grass or something like that, they're not going to be charged for it, or?
They're gonna have to fix the damage.
We're
Okay.
gonna
If
ask
they do
them
it
to,
all themselves, then no, there will not be fines.
right. So we're gonna ask them to fix
Repeat that again. I didn't understand that.
So in other words, so like the people who built something into the park, they're gonna have to remove that.
Okay.
They're gonna have to fill it with fill and then topsoil and seed it. But if they repair the park back to its original condition, there will not be fines. If they don't do it and we have to do it, we're going to bill them for all that cost.
Right. Whatever it costs us, really, they should have to pay because they did it to our land. It'd be, and it's not, it wouldn't be any different if it was a private issue. If someone came and messed up your property and then they, you called them out on it and said, you need to repair it. You need to move your swing set off and fill in the holes.
How long have they been doing this?
I don't know. What happens a lot of times is, especially with the yards that don't have fences, people mow and they mow a little bit more. And so then they come back and, oh, the weeds are encroaching, so I mow a bit further, but they actually go beyond the property line. And then they look and see, okay, this is the mowed area and there's the tall grass. That must be the start of the park. This must be, in other words, I don't know that any of it was malicious. And to be honest, I don't want to try to get into intent, because that's part of the thing, is sort of where you're going with your questions, maybe not what your intent is. But the point is, if we're looking to find them, then we have to, you start to then get it. Well, first we'd have to take them to court. We'd have to demonstrate that there was malicious intent involved. I would rather just get the problem resolved. That's where I kind of sit on it. But there's a couple more that have happened since. And again, I think it has to do more with when they look at where the neighbors' sheds are and they line their stuff up with those sheds, they're now over the lines too. So those ones, because it's brand new we're doing the same thing we did with the original 6, where we're basically, Deputy Town Supervisor Craig Eckert is going to visit to him, explain him what the issue is. And again, 2 of the 6 people resolved it themselves. And that's why we're down to 4 here.
So we'll probably end up staking out where our property is to let them know that.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
If it gets into a dispute over the property line, we'd have to bring in a surveyor.
Right.
If they don't argue with it. So again, we can, we have some surveying, I don't even want to say surveying. We have some ability with the equipment we have to determine a geographic location that is not the same as surveying. Surveying is authoritative. And so again, if they challenge us on the location, then we would have to then go in and have a surveyor come in and stake it. If they do challenge us on that and we're correct, then I would pass that bill through to.
Right. It just becomes more cost. Yeah.
But,
Well, it sounds
I
like the
don't
right
think-
action to take.
Right, I don't think they're gonna argue. I think becomes pretty clear when you look at the stuff that they're over the line. Again, I think most of it was honest mistake. The one, it's so massive. I don't know. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt just to get it done.
Right.
Thanks.
Any other questions, comments? And I'd like to thank Craig for all his work on this,
Yeah,
as
thank you,
well
Craig.
as folks from the engineering who helped establish again, where we believe the property line to be.
And thanks to the people who took care of the issue
Yep,
without
without,
having to go through this.
absolutely. Okay, hearing no further comments, please call the roll.
Councilmember Bartley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 15-186, 2021 to approve equipment installation purchase for Breeze Park exercise play trail creation.
Second.
So this is one that we debated whether we really needed it. Because of one line in the old resolution, we decided it's safer to do it. And since we're already past 9:30, what's 2 minutes more? Basically, what it said in the old one was that we approved the purchase. So the equipment, labor, which essentially is installation, but it all said through a state contract. That the installation is actually through the Federal General Services Agreement purchase vehicle, not a state contract. The state does allow you to purchase off of that vehicle, but it's not technically a state contract. We could, rather than get into that argument, we just said, let's approve it. So it's still the same dollar amount. It's not to exceed 250,000. And in fact, it's actually coming in significantly below that. But I just wanted to update the resolution to be clean. Any questions, comments? And I will note, if you're out at Breeze Park and you go around, you'll actually see they're already starting to clear the our crews are starting to prep the sites where the pods are going to be. So a bunch of us, including some members from the Parks and Rec Board, including Michael Condello, who was the individual who kind of was the spearhead for this 6-8 years ago, whenever he first started, was there, very excited, very happy to see the vision finally coming to fruition. So, a lot of people will be putting in a bunch of work to make this happen. I think it's going to be a great addition. While we were there, some residents came by and said something along the lines of, are we finally going to get the equipment that we were promised, when we bought our house? And I said, absolutely, showed them the plans. They were ecstatic about it. They have kids that are the
Right.
perfect age for taking advantage of that trail. So,
That's great.
so like I said, I think it'll be a great addition. And we may even have enough to be able to do some, like, whether we're looking at, there is a sewer lateral out there, bring a water lateral out, put a restroom, because anyone with little kids will tell you they have pee emergencies and they've got to go.
Yeah,
So having a bathroom there, I think would be a great addition.
absolutely.
And then, depending on what's left, there is also in the LWRP, the ability to add additional trails to bring the Riverwalk Trail through, to potentially put a launch into the river there, and as well as a pavilion. So that would all be under the LWRP. As much as we can do under this, we will, but whatever we can't do, we'll look to do in the future under the LWRP.
Great.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz, fellow board members, I have resolution 15-187, 2021, to authorize the supervisor to sign the license and hold harmless agreement, right-of-way encroachment for the property at 283 Castle Road.
Second.
So again, if you remember, we authorized previously a out-of-district sewer extension for this property. The only way to get the sewer to us was to go through the right-of-way. And this is basically helps protect the town. So it also dictates how the thing has to be installed. So it gets into stuff that there'll be a tracer wire so that it'll be very easy to locate. Because one of the things, because it's our property, whenever we get a, know before you dig call, we're gonna have to go out and mark it. So we wanted it to be easily done. When you put the tracer wire in, you can just go in with the equipment, say, here it is, flag, 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 done.
Great.
But, part of the thing is, if anything happens to that sewer while it's in our property, it's it's their issue, not ours. And so that's part of what the hold harmless agreement covers, including during the installation of it itself. Anything else? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 15-188, 2021 to authorize creation of an ad hoc committee to guide the development of the future Chapman's Corner Town Park.
Seconded.
So originally, we were gonna put out a call for participation. We had an initial meeting of some of the people we knew we had wanted to have on that committee. We had 7 people, and that's without myself and council member Millie Safranik, who would be the liaison to this ad hoc committee being there. So we decided that we have enough representation on the committee and just decided to name it as is without doing an additional call. Anybody who is interested in this and wishes to be kept up to date as the stuff is going along, feel free to send an email to supervisor@henrietta.org, and I'll happily send along anything we're doing in planning and working on this. And again, special thanks to Ann Stevens and Bill Shattuck for their generosity in what they'll be donating to the town, as well as putting their own money on the line to secure the property so that it could become a town park down the road when it's in our budget. Any other questions, comments? And thank you, Millie, for volunteering to be the board liaison. And as I said, I'll get you in touch with Ann and Bill so that you can get brought up to speed with what we discussed the other day.
Great, thank you.
Any further comment? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution number 15-189, 2021, to proclaim July 10th through July 18th as Pride Week in Henrietta with a Pride flag raising ceremony on July 10th at 6 p.m.
Second.
So we did next to nothing last year because we did still do the flag flying and the raising, but we didn't have much of a ceremony because of COVID. This will be closer to what we did the first year. I'd like to thank Councilmember Millie Safranek for her work in coordinating with the LGBTQ plus community and helping to get this organized and rolling. You know, for those who were there 2 years ago, you don't need me to tell you, it was a really neat event. A lot of great participation, very moving, and just all around a great thing. So I look forward to seeing something similar.
Fortunately, I'll be out of town for that event, which I could attend.
Well, we've got a number of people that are working on pulling some things together. I don't think it's going to be quite the size of the one a couple of years ago, but I think it is still very important to celebrate the diversity here in Henrietta and the many families and young people that are members of the LGBTQ plus community.
And one of the proposals in front of the town, someone, was it you, Millie, or was it someone else? The sustainability, or not sustainability, the diversity
Committee, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
would be the idea to create a diversity committee. And one of there'd be a number of things that they like help with Juneteenth celebration, help with the Pride celebration, to involve the community in those activities, so that, you know, again, as part of this, would be on our schedule sooner. We could start planning it sooner, and you know, really help in that regard. So I thought that's a great idea. It's something that we'll probably be trying to tackle this summer. There were already enough public hearings for next meeting that didn't try to tackle it for this one, but that's something that I would definitely be interested in taking a look at.
Yeah.
It would have other roles as well, but my point is specifically with relations to this, it would help, I think, for future planning.
Yeah, to make sure that we can include members of that community and to hear their voices, absolutely.
Other questions, comments? And I still have I have the updated flag that we
Oh,
flew
good.
last year.
Okay, yes, that was one of the questions we were looking
Yep.
into today.
I actually, well, I might even have both flags. I can't remember if I returned the original flag when we went to the updated one.
Okay.
That was the more inclusive flag. Any other questions, comments?
No, sir.
Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution 15-190, 2021 to authorize the tax surcharge settlement with Rochester Airport Hospitality LLC.
Second, again, the secret is to not look at the word
Yes.
Yes.
because it's not spelled like it's pronounced.
Was I close enough?
You were close, certiorari, yeah. There's a urge to always add the extra syllable that's not there for some reason. Yeah, so one of these, so I think this is the one that actually has the assessment was lowered and does have some back payments that essentially refunds. The county will be handling that. We'll be sending what the updated numbers are, but you know, basically I guess it gets adjusted or taken out of the upcoming levies. I don't know. Char, do you have any update if you're still on what the that process is? Do we remit a check or does it just get deducted from what gets collected the next go around? If you're on, Charlene, you're muted.
Shar, we can hear you, but you're very, very quiet.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Nope.
Okay.
We can just barely hear you. So Don, go ahead and crank the volume. No one else speak online, so our ears don't get blasted. Go ahead, Shar.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
Tim Murphy put it on the levy.
So it'd go on the levy?
Yes, it will be.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I don't know if anybody has any additional questions on that.
I forgot. I know we've discussed it before, but does the school board have to approve this or the school district?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
This is the real property tax law. It's an assessor decision, not the board, like,
We're the assessing authority. The school doesn't
Right.
assess.
Do they have any input at all on this? I know it.
they can, I think during the lawsuit, they can provide testimony, but I would assume, I don't know, but you know, again, it's largely has to do with assessment, not discretionary board decisions.
Pretty substantial refund.
Yes.
I take it we had a third-party assessment done on the properties for this. I did see something in the bills. Maybe it
Yeah,
responded to
there
this.
was, and I think this, again, this one I think went all the way to court. Is that
Okay.
correct, Charlene?
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, we
Yes.
can. Thank you.
Yes, this did have a court-ready appraisal done.
Yeah, so we fought it the whole way, but you know, it's basically where it ended up.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 15-191, 2021 to authorize the tax certiorari settlement with BHTL Plaza LLC.
Second.
So if my memory serves me, this one does not have a back payment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So this one only affects going forward, which we much prefer whenever we can
Yes.
get them, but you can't always get some folks to agree to that.
Sounds like a song.
Can't always get what you want.
That's right. Any other questions, comments on this one? I'll just say thanks, Charlene, for the effort you've put in helping get these done and settled. And to those who worked on them prior to you. So I suspect these have been around for a while. Anything else? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Fellow board members, I have resolution 15-192, 2021 to authorize the purchase of a new 4x4 pickup truck for public works.
Second.
I apologize. I don't know that I ever got the answer as to whether there was anything local. Other than, like I said, I can say that I know Chuck always does try to find local. So I'm not sure why we ended up at Boston, but if anybody on the call knows that answer, feel free to chime in. I'll just note that, again, it's also possible that we're also seeing the same issues of the, limited supply chain.
Yeah, this is Mike Catalano, Commissioner of Public Works. It goes out to bid. The only one that from local is Hazelton. They didn't even bid on it. So the bids we have on those trucks just come from everybody else. So there's nobody local who wanted to bid on it.
That's it.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 15-193, 2021 to authorize the purchase of a new 4x4 pickup truck for the highway department.
Seconded.
So, again, basically Public Works and Highway each needed a new truck. So when we went out to bid, we got two.
Lucky guys.
Any further questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Please.
Supervisor Schultz, fellow board members, I have resolution number 15-194, 2021 to authorize an increase in cost for the purchase of a plow dump truck for the highway department.
Second.
Yeah, it's just a slight typo. In the second place where it says 2,251, it uses a decimal instead of a comma, but
You know what it is.
we know what it meant. If you want to fix that as a Scrivener error, Jenny or Becky, feel free, but otherwise it really doesn't, it's not a big deal. Yeah, so again, basically steel pricing has been going through the roof. That was the cost for that portion of the dump body. It got up since it was first quoted. They could not get steel for the price that was quoted. So that's what the addition is. Any other questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution 15-195, 2021. Whereas an anonymous donor donated $1,500 to the Henrietta Public Library, and whereas a check in the amount of $1,500 was received by the library director, therefore be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board acknowledge this donation and thanks the anonymous donor for their generosity.
Second. We're all getting a little tired.
Thank you, whoever you are.
Yes, that's very generous. Thank you.
Any further comments? Anything our library director might like to add if she's still on and awake?
I'm still awake. We're gonna use these funds to get a couple picnic tables for the patio off the children's room. So that's gonna be really nice.
Great. Sounds good. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 15-196, 2021 to declare items surplus materials from the Henrietta Public Library.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution 15-197, 2021 to authorize supervisor or director of finance to accept the broker's recommendation and sign contracts or policies for the town's cyber liability policy.
Second.
Any discussion? I'll just say, if you haven't completed your know before cyber certification, please do so. It will help lower the cost of our liability. Hearing no further discussion, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 15-198, 2021 to authorize the purchase of desktop computers and systems per the 2021 adopted budget.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution number 15-199, 2021 to make appropriate budget transfers per the 2021 adopted budget.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford, Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, I have resolution 15-200, 2021 to hire the personnel and make the attached changes.
Second. Any comment, questions, discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow town board members, I mercifully present to you Resolution 15-201, 2021 to adopt local law number 8 of 2021 to amend the Henrietta Town Code at Chapter 234 to revise the refuse collection map maintenance.
Second.
Any discussion? Other than this will be a big help to our town clerks who will not have to maintain this map during the time when we don't have more than 3 providers.
Do you want to read this email on the?
So we have an email from Peter Collins. He had originally wanted to spoke, but things were running so long, he left. He said he did get a chance to chat with tonight's Eagle Scout honoree, so it was worth the trip. But he basically says he agrees completely with our plan to suspend the refuse map. Furthermore, I would suggest you do away with the map and attempt to control collection days completely. Sure, the intention was good to have fewer days, but personally, if there are 4 or 5 refuse company coming to my street, I'd rather that they were spread out on many different days instead of having multiple trucks jockeying around the neighborhood at the same time. The prior system seems very anti-competitive. Once the map is set up based on the existing service, how can a new startup company with a small number of clients ever manage to set up routes that would conform? What I personally prefer would be to have the town set up 1 or more collection refuge districts, bid out the services and collect the user fees on our property tax bills like a few of our neighboring towns do. Then there would be only 1 refuse truck on a street on 1 day per week, and I suspect that the multiple efficiencies, 1 truck, 1 billing system would lead to lower costs for everyone. Yes, it would be a big change, but I personally think it would be an improvement for everyone. So again, that's a town resident, Peter Collins. I don't necessarily disagree with him, but it's certainly not something we're going to do right now. But as I said earlier, I do intend to put that query out to see what people think. There'll probably be something about that maybe in the summer town newsletter.
Yeah, I might add, actually have you get a write-off for your refuge cost too, if it's added in.
Yeah, but I talked about that once before, and the one issue there was it would put you over the tax levy or the tax cap. And you have to, they'd have to be voted on if they
Interesting.
include it in your taxes.
Gotcha.
Yep, because I talked to one of the other towns that do that. So, okay.
Any further questions?
No, sir.
Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. That concludes the discussion, action upon of resolutions, local laws, and ordinances. Since we have no public, well, I guess there's somebody online, although it looks like it's primarily town directors. Any additional discussion items from the board or public?
I just wanted to say a couple of really quick things, and I'll make them really, really short. I was able to attend the flag
Jump in this
ceremony at the
section.
Elks Lodge on June 14th, and if you've never attended a flag ceremony, it was just really, really nice and inspirational, and the Boy Scouts were there. I would recommend doing it. They do it every year on Flag Day. And then the other thing is, I just wanted to give a shout out to the Recreation Department, to Pam and her staff, and to Jacqueline Kiddo. Their gymnastics, they did a meet a couple weeks ago for the little ones, and it was just truly amazing what they did with 5-year-olds. My granddaughter was in it, and I was just blown away by what they're able to do with these little ones. And they actually had them do 4 different events, and they gave them trophies and little goodie bags at the end. And I just have never seen my granddaughter so excited, and it was just the cutest thing ever. So Jackie didn't want me to say anything at the time the meet was going on, so too bad. I'm going to say something tonight, because they're just, the gymnastics and the recreation department is just phenomenal at this town. That's it.
So apparently Lisa has moved us on to item 7, committee and miscellaneous.
No,
reports.
those are not my committees.
Those weren't her committees.
Those are not my committees.
Right, there's miscellaneous.
Oh, sorry. Well, you asked if I had any
That's
public
okay.
comments,
That's
so
okay. I'm teasing.
I apologize, but I had to just give a
Join
shout
together.
out to those things.
I know, the two is often blurred. I was just teasing. I'm getting punch drunk.
I know, me too.
Okay, who's up?
Want me to do my Parks and Rec?
Go ahead.
Okay, Parks and Rec, and I'll try to make this quick, but there's a lot. We'll be hosting the 4th of July celebration on Sunday, July 4th. Visit the senior center for the craft and garage sale with over 25 vendors attending. That's from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the senior center. Veterans Park will be closed for setup in the morning and afternoon prior to the evening's events. This year will be children's activities, including crafts, bounce house, lawn games, and more, beginning at 5. Several vendors will be, food vendors will be on site. Brass Taxi will take the stage at 7:45 p.m., followed by the fireworks show at 9:45 p.m. Pre-registration for parking is preferred, is not required, but preferred.
I'll point out that pre-registration parking is for people who will wish to watch the fireworks from the safety of their cars, because maybe they're vulnerable or for whatever reason, they're not comfortable being out in crowds. If you're just parking and gonna go sit on a blanket, no need to do pre-registration. It's just for the upfront parking where you can see the fireworks from your car.
The Rush Henrietta community will be joining the Uniting Through Hope and the town of Brighton on Thursday, July 15th, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. for a Stop the Violence March. Everyone is invited to stand against violence in our communities. Details are on the Henrietta website, so we can go there. We're gonna celebrate Pudgy the Dove for special day with live music and an ice cream social. That is Saturday, July 17th, 11 to 2 p.m. at the Tinker Nature Park. Summer concert series continues, returns to Veterans Memorial Park beginning Friday, July 16th, with entertainment from Keys to the Caddy with Tony Infantino. Keys to the Caddy plays rock, classic blues, country, and even a little jazz. So parking will be available at the senior center. Concessions will also be available, I'm sorry. Don't forget your lawn chair. And then finally, the Town of Henrietta Youth Board will be hosting Teen Summerfest on July 31st, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. At the amphitheater, excuse me, I'm getting a little tired here. The event is sponsored by the Henrietta Youth Board and the RH students entering grade 9 through 21 graduating seniors. They have activities and free ice cream. Register online.
Great. Rob?
And during the bills, I noticed, and I'll say thank you to everyone who worked so hard on the expansion of our driveways and the getting rid of all the variances, because someone got a refund. They didn't actually have to pay for it. And so we refunded our residents. So it's very good. It was good to see that. And it goes to say that we didn't need to do that, and we're saving some of our residents some money by doing so. We're also reducing our revenue here in the town. Not a problem, right? The other thing is, I like to say thanks again to the Recreation Center for hosting the blood drive on Saturday in my father's honor. And a lot of people came out, and supervisor came out. I know that last year, Lisa Bosner came out. I know Millie would have came out. She had a graduation party. And Stafford was out doing something on his birthday too. So it was a tough day. Everybody was out doing stuff. So thanks to everyone who came out. They had a goal of 42 winners. They got 46.
That's great.
I was hoping they hit 50. And so it will help a lot of lives. So thanks to the Rec Center for hosting that, and to the American Red Cross for the great job they did.
And thank you for setting that up.
Yeah. Thank you, Rob, for promoting that all the time and
Welcome.
setting it up.
It's a
in your
great
father's
honor
honor.
for your dad.
For those who've been by the senior center, that area, you'll notice there is now a new culvert entering into Town Park. So we will now have 2 entrances and exits from Veterans Memorial Park, which I know our fire department and ambulance service will be very much grateful for, because God forbid there was ever an accident on the way out of that park.
Tough to get in and out.
Especially 4th of July, it would have been very difficult to get emergency services in. And our highway team, if you haven't watched them do some of the modern paving, it's pretty impressive to watch them go. I will strongly suggest you stand next to the pavement that's being rolled as opposed to the pavement that's being laid down, because it's probably about 20 degrees, 25 degrees hotter next to the now maybe if it's late later in the year you might want that heat, but I will tell you 2 days ago you did not. It was brutal.
Yeah.
I don't know how those guys did it. I do know the operator of the paving machine basically said, we're going to move on this quickly because I intend to be in my swimming pool by 1 p.m.
Yes, sir.
So, and they did that, go over there. It looks gorgeous. And the nice thing is it's going to route the traffic away from the senior center with the old cut through. The other thing we've done is they used to refer to as a slow road. We're turning that into a stone pathway. We'll eventually get rid of the makeshift culvert and put in a bridge, probably of similar construction to the Pooh Bridge. So that will stay as a pedestrian and bicycle path, but no more vehicles. And again, that will also help because no more vehicles going right past the Bocce Court Pavilion. So again, thanks to the highway crews and everybody working on that. I swear I had one other thing, but.
And
at this
before you
point-
close, can I say
Oh.
something about the library, just before you
Absolutely.
close? The library's back to normal hours, but they are closed Saturday, Sunday, and Monday for the 4th of July. The community room is available for meetings.
Thank
if
you.
You'd like that. And they have a summer reading challenge. Look at their website. It sounds really cool. There's 6 different levels of things just to get you through reading this summer. Sorry, I just wanted people
No
to know it was
problem.
closed this
Absolutely.
weekend.
And you also reminded me what the other thing was. It's actually the old library. So some people were in there voting, were asking, are we ever going to do the, what's happening to that old equipment? Our original plan was in the spring of 2020 to hold essentially, whether you call it silent auction, whatever, just garage sale, whatever we're gonna do it, for anybody who wanted some of the equipment in there. But obviously, COVID hit and changed all that. We're still planning on to do that. It's just gonna be sometime later this summer. So if you want to be notified of that, you can either pay attention to it and, our notices either on our website or on our Facebook page. Or if you want to send me an email at supervisorhenrietta.org, or you can go to henrietta.org/subscribe and sign up for the notice from the supervisor, because I will send an e-notify out when that happens. So a bunch of different ways to get notified, but we will plan, so if there was any of the old desks or cubicles or shelves or, the stuff that's left over.
Card catalogs.
Card catalogs.
People like to collect this.
Yeah, so. And I think that's about it. Anything else?
Just want to thank our interpreters and our department heads who stuck with us all night tonight.
Right.
Well, thank you.
Which brings us to the end of our agenda. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Wow, she's quick.